My name is Molly Whittaker. I'm 39 years old. The week my mother was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's, I installed a small camera above her kitchen refrigerator. Last November, on a Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep. I opened my laptop and scrolled back through 14 months of footage. At 2 in the morning, I watched my older sister walk past my mother in the dark and go straight to the filing cabinet in the kitchen. I had put that camera there for the simplest reason a daughter can have. I wanted to know my mother was eating. I wanted to know she was taking her Alzheimer's medication on schedule. That was all I wanted. The camera recorded what came next. Anyway, before I take you back, please take a moment to like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. It helps me know who is listening tonight. Now, let me take you back to Tuesday in October last year, the day my mother forgot the word for sugar. The neurologist's office had the kind off-carpet that swallowed sound, beige, industrial, the color of old coffee with too much creamer. My mother sat between us, Bate on her left, me on her right, and I remember thinking that the chair's armrest was too narrow for 3 hands. Dr. Halpern was kind in the careful way that doctors are when they have already decided what to say. He used the words early-onset Alzheimer's on the second page of his explanation, and my mother nodded slowly the way she nodded at the bank teller when the rates changed. Fench asked if she could have a glass of water. Bate was already moving. "I'll get it, Mom. I've got this. I'm 20 minutes from the house. Molly has Eli to worry about. We'll figure out a system." I wanted to say something. I don't remember what. The wanting sat in my throat like a small bird that had not learned to sing. Mom drank her water in 3 small sips. She folded the paper cup along its seam the way she always folded receipts. In the car on the way home, I drove. Bate had taken her own car. My mother sat in the passenger seat and watched the trees go by, and after a long while she put her hand over mine on the gear shift. "I'm not afraid of forgetting," she said. "I'm afraid of being a burden." I told her she would never be a burden. I meant it. I think I even believed it. When we got to her house, she walked me into the kitchen and tapped the top of the metal filing cabinet by the back door. It was 4 drawers, olive green, older than I was. Everything important is in there. Your father and I started it in '84. Bills, deeds, the will, you know where to look. I told her I knew. I told her not to worry. That night, I lay in bed and thought about how relieved I felt that Bate was going to handle it. Then I thought about being relieved, and the relief tasted strange in my mouth, like a word I had repeated too many times in a row. The next week, I drove to the electronics store across town and bought a small white camera for $89. The clerk asked if it was for a baby. I told him it was for my mother. He nodded slowly and put a free pack of zip ties in the bag. I mounted it on top of the refrigerator with a strip of black adhesive that smelled like the inside of a new car. From up there, it could see the whole kitchen, the breakfast table, the back door, the doorway to the hall that led to the bedroom. I told my mother before I plugged it in. I sat at her kitchen table with my coffee and I told her the truth. I wanted to be able to check on her. I wanted to know she was eating. I wanted to know about Theppels. She laughed. It was a real laugh, low and surprised. "I've been watched my whole life by your father. One more camera won't hurt." Bate came by on Saturday with a casserole and a candle. She saw the camera. She tilted her head at it for half a second. Then she smiled the smile she used at open houses. "Oh, good. Less for me to worry about." She set the candle on the windowsill and started talking about the new neighbors. That night, I downloaded the app onto my phone. I made a folder for the footage. I made a small rule for myself because I knew myself. I would only check it on Sunday afternoons while Eli watched cartoons. I would skim 5 minutes of daytime. I would not watch at night. There would be nothing to watch at night. I tested the live feed once before bed. The kitchen was empty and dim. The oven clock blinked 1200 in soft green. A moth threw itself at the window over the sink 3 times and then gave up. I closed the app. I plugged in my phone. I told myself the camera was just an extra pair of eyes for a daughter who could not be in 2 places at once. I told myself it was a kindness. I did not know yet that some kindnesses keep recording while you sleep. Time went by the way it goes by when you are not paying attention. Christmas came and my mother baked the apple pie she had made every December for 40 years. Only she forgot the sugar. And Eli and I ate it anyway and told her it was perfect. In March, she called Eli your boy just once. She caught it herself a second later and laughed and said she was getting old. I laughed with her. I did not write it down. In June, she stopped knitting. She had been making a blanket for Sophie, my niece, Bates' girl, and she set the needles down one Tuesday and never picked them up again. The yarn stayed in the basket by her chair, soft, gray, and waiting. In August, I opened her silverware drawer and the forks were turned the wrong way, tines facing the back. I corrected them without thinking. The next time I came over, they were turned wrong again. I corrected them again. Bate handled Thebbles. Bate made the pharmacy runs. Bate sent me a long text one night that read, "Sis, have you thought about going part-time? Mom is going to need more from us soon. You only work with little kids all day. It's not like it's brain surgery." I read it 3 times. I felt my face get hot. I wrote back, "I'll think about it." I did not stop thinking about it for 6 weeks. Marlene started in October. She was the in-home aide Bate had hired 3 afternoons a week. She was 52, broad-shouldered with a quiet face. The first time I met her, she was folding a dish towel into thirds and she looked up at me and said, "Your mama still likes her tea hot." That was all. That was everything I needed to know about Marlene. I came by twice a week. I skimmed the camera on Sundays. 5 minutes. Mom eating cereal. Mom laughing at the radio. Mom and Bate at the table. Everything looked fine. The only thing that snagged on me was something my mother said in early October after a longer than usual nap. "I just feel tired in the wrong way." I asked her what she meant. She couldn't say. She rubbed her temple and looked out the window at the bird feeder. I told her it was probably the disease. I told her to drink some water. I closed the app on Sunday and turned off the kitchen light in my own house and went to bed. It was the second Tuesday of November. Eli had run a low fever in the afternoon. He was asleep by 8. The Tylenol had brought him down. I could not sleep. I lay in bed and listened to the rain make its small noises against the gutter. And at 11, I gave up and got the laptop and opened the camera app. I don't know why I scrolled back further than usual. I had a thought I could not name. I want to see her from when she was sharper. I dragged the slider back 9 months. I picked a date at random. February 14th. The kitchen at 1:00 a.m. was empty. The kitchen at 1:30 was empty. At 2:14, the back door opened. My sister came in. She did not turn on the overhead light. She used the flashlight on her phone, Thebeam tucked low against her hip, the way you carry a candle. She walked down the hallway past the open door of my mother's bedroom and she did not stop. She did not look in. She went straight to the filing cabinet. She knelt. She pulled open the bottom drawer. She lifted out a stack of something, paper, maybe an envelope, and she set it on the counter under the cabinet light. She read for a moment. She took a pen out of her purse. She wrote on the paper slowly, carefully, with the kind off-attention people pay when they are copying handwriting. She put the paper into her purse. She closed the drawer. She turned off the cabinet light. 7 minutes and 22 seconds from the door to the door. I rewound it. I watched it again. I rewound it. I watched it again. The first question that came to me was easy to answer. Why does she have a key? Because Mom had given Bate a key the week of the diagnosis when Bate took the power of attorney. That made sense. That was fine. The second question did not have an easy answer. Why 2 in the morning? I sat with that question the way you sit with a stone in your shoe. Not moving, not speaking, just feeling it. Then I dragged the slider back another month and started watching again. I had watched my sister for 7 minutes and 22 seconds, and that turned out to be the shortest part of what I would have to watch. Over the next 9 days, I watched 237 hours of footage. I did not watch all of it. I watched the nights. I made a system the way I make a system for kindergarten lesson plans. A spreadsheet on the laptop with columns for date, time of entry, time of exit, and what I could see her carrying in or out. She came 9 to 11 days apart. Always between 1:45 and 3:00 a.m., she always went to the filing cabinet first. Some nights she went to the cabinet over the sink where my mother kept her medication. Some nights she carried things out, a small velvet box. The night of February 28th, my mother's pearls, a folded paper. The night of April 3rd, a whole envelope fat with something. The night of June 9th, I told no one. I did not tell my best friend Hannah. I did not tell my brother Daniel out in Oregon. I did not even let it slip in front of Eli when he asked why I was so quiet at breakfast. I told him the kindergarten was getting a new principal and I was tired. He accepted this the way an 8-year-old accepts most adult lies, which is to say with one raised eyebrow and a shrug. I taught all day. I made dinner. I read Charlotte's Web out loud to Eli for the second time that fall. I waited for him to fall asleep. Then I opened the laptop and I watched. Once in a clip from late April, Bate was on the phone in my mother's kitchen at 1:53 in the morning. The audio was bad. I could not hear what she was saying. She kept her voice low and her face turned away from the camera. She paced. She stopped. She listened for a long time. She said one word I could read on her lips, please. I wrote April 23rd. Phone call who in my spreadsheet. I did not cry. I had read somewhere that the body is wiser than we are about which feeling to send first. The body had sent something cold I did not have a word for. I made a list. I watched. I taught. I waited. I drove to my mother's house on a Thursday morning when I knew she would be napping. Marlene was off that day. I let myself in with my own key. The house smelled like Earl Gay and the dry rosemary on the windowsill. I went straight to the filing cabinet. The bottom drawer slid out with the small complaint that filing cabinets make when they are older than the person opening them. The checkbook was in the back in its leather sleeve. I counted the stubs. Then I counted the missing checks. 17 torn out. No entry written on the carbon. No memo in the register. Just clean stubs. On the kitchen counter, 6 FT from the cabinet, my mother kept a little spiral notebook for grocery lists. I knew her handwriting better than I knew my own. I had been getting grocery lists from her since I was 12. The top page of the notebook was a list. Eggs, milk, oranges, butter. The page underneath was something else. 14 times my mother's full signature. Margaret L. Whittaker. Each one slightly different from the last. Each one closer to the original than the one before. The pressure of the pen was being studied. The slope of the L was being practiced. I took my phone out of my pocket. I took a photo of every page. I closed the notebook. I put the checkbook back. I closed the drawer. I left the house. That afternoon, while Eli was at his after-school program, I sat at my own kitchen table with my mother's online banking password. She had given the password to all 3 of us in a notarized letter in 2018 in case anything ever happened. And I pulled up the last 14 months, 47 checks cashed at branches in 3 different counties, some for $2,000, some for $5,000. The largest was for $9,400. The total came to $63,400. I did not say anything out loud. I did not slam anything. I refilled my coffee. I stood at my own kitchen window and looked at the bird feeder my mother had given me for my birthday 3 years ago. I had been asking the wrong question all week. The question was not what my sister was doing. The question was how long she had been doing it. That Sunday, Bate made pot roast at our mother's house. It was Mom's favorite. The carrots were cut on the bias the way Mom liked them. Bate set the table with the good napkins and lit one candle and stood back and admired her own work. I watched her the whole time and tried not to look like I was watching. She kissed Mom on the top of her head when she came in. She rearranged the salt and pepper. She got Mom's pill organizer off the counter and set the sundae compartment by Mom's plate. I just want Mom to feel safe. Bate said to no one. That's all I want. Eli ate his roast and answered every question Bate asked him. He liked her. She gave him gum at the end of every visit. Halfway through the meal, Mom set her fork down and pushed her plate forward 2 in. It tastes wrong tonight. Bate smiled. Oh, Mom, it's your same recipe. It's just your taste buds, sweetheart. The doctor said this would happen. Mom did not pick up the fork again. Eli swallowed his bite of bread. He looked at me. He looked at Bate. He looked at the key ring on the counter near the back door. Mom's spare house key on the brass hook by the calendar. Bate's key. Mom, he said. Why does Aunt Bate have a key to Grandma's house? The room held very still. Mom looked up. Bates' hand stopped halfway to her wine glass. I answered him myself because she helps Grandma, that's all. Bate laughed, short, soft, a real estate agent's laugh. She did not look at me. She poured Mom a little more water. After dinner, she said, "Sis, you take Eli home. I'll clean up." It was the same line she had used every Sunday for 14 months. Every Sunday I had said thanks and gathered Eli's coat. This Sunday I said I'll stay. Mom likes having both of us. Bates' smile flickered for half a second, then it came back brighter. Of course. We washed dishes side by side at the sink. We did not speak. The water ran. The radio in the next room played something slow with a piano. I dried each plate and stacked it where my mother could reach it. I did not look at my sister once. Monday morning before school, I stopped at Mom's house to pick up the mail. I had a key, too. I had always had one, and Bate had not been by yet that week. The mail was on the front mat. 2 catalogs, a coupon book, a bill from the gas company, and a letter from the Social Security Administration on the heavy paper they use opened. Bate had been by. Bate had opened it. Beth had left it. I sat down on Mom's front step and read it. Notice of account change confirmation. It confirmed that the destination account for monthly Social Security deposits had been changed. Effective 11 months earlier from my mother's primary checking account to a joint savings account titled Margaret L. Whittaker and Bethany M. Whittaker. I tried to remember the joint account. I almost remembered it. Bate had mentioned it at the dinner table once. "Sis, I helped Mom open a little savings account so we'd have a clean pool for caregiving expenses. You signed something as a witness in November, and I had nodded the way you nod when someone is talking about taxes. I had been a witness. The deposits in the past 11 months totaled $19,800. None of them, as far as I could tell from the bank summary I pulled later, had ever moved from that account into anything that could be called a caregiving expense. I folded the letter back into its envelope. I propped it back against the front door at the angle it had been propped. I stood up. I draw Vito's school. That morning, a 5-year-old named Owen knocked his pencil cup off his desk and the cup broke. He looked up at me with the wide, terrified eyes that 5-year-olds have when they think they have ruined an adult's day. I knelt and picked up the pieces. "It's all right, sweetheart. Things break sometimes." He nodded. He went back to his coloring. I sat down at my desk and watched 22 5-year-olds work on the letter M, and I thought about my mother who could no longer reliably remember the word for sugar, and about my sister who had used my hand and my signature to break something while I was busy nodding at the dinner table. That Thursday night, I sat down with the laptop again. I had a different question now. I had stopped looking for money. I started looking for what I had missed in the daytime footage, the parts I had skimmed past every Sunday for 14 months. I went back to a clip from June. 11:17 at night, not 2 in the morning. Mom had gone to bed an hour earlier. Bate was in the kitchen alone. The camera caught her in soft profile. She opened the upper cabinet where Mom kept her medication. She took down the bottle of Mom's Dawn Apple, the white prescription bottle with the orange cap, the one I had seen 100 times, and she shook 3 pills into her palm. She set the 3 pills aside on the counter. She reached into her purse, unzipped a small inner pocket, and pulled out a different bottle. White round pills scored down the middle, roughly the same size as the Donapsol, but not the same. She tipped 3 of those into her palm. She dropped them into the prescription bottle. She put the Donapsol pills, the real ones, into a small bag in her purse. She closed the cabinet. She washed her hands. She left. I rewound it. I watched it 3 more times. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. I did not sleep that night. In the morning, before Eli was awake, I called Hannah Ortega. Hannah was my closest friend. She was also a pharmacist at the drugstore on Main. I described the pill. Small white round skirt across the middle, and I said it was being given in place of Donepezil. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mol," she said finally. "White round scored. That's most likely diphenhydramine. It's an over-the-counter sleep aid. If your mom hasn't gotten her Donepezil for 11 months, she hasn't gotten her Alzheimer's medication. and diphenhydramine accelerates cognitive decline in elderly patients. It's on every list of drugs you do not give a person with dementia. I stood at my kitchen window and watched my son eat cereal. He was wearing the dinosaur pajamas he refused to give up. His hair was sticking up in the back. "How long?" I said, and my voice came out the wrong size. Would 11 months of that do to her? It would do exactly what you've been watching. I hung up the phone slowly. Eli looked up from his bowl. "Mom, what's for dinner tonight?" I could not answer for a long time. Saturday afternoon, after the pharmacy closed, Hannah let me in through Thebek. The fluorescents hummed. The place smelled like mint and warm plastic and the faint vinegar of old cardboard. I set my laptop on the counter by the cash register. I had 3 folders ready. Footage, bank screenshots, photos of the practice signatures. Hannah watched the June clip first, then the August one, then the October one. She did not say anything until the 3rd was over. She walked over to the back office and pulled up Mom's prescription history on the system. She turned the monitor toward me. Dawn Pezzle refills every 28 days like clockwork. Picked up by Bethany Whitaker each time. Verified, look at this. She pulled up the count column. Each refill, the bottle should be empty. Give or take a pill. The pharmacy double checks that for elderly patients. She told the tech every single month that the count was perfect. She said it in the system. She said it out loud. She had to throw the real ones out somewhere or hide them. Donepezil isn't a controlled substance. It doesn't have street value. She's throwing them out or hiding them. Either way, Hannah closed the screen. She rested both hands flat on the counter. "Mole, this isn't elder abuse. This is felony drug tampering. You don't need a regular cop. You need a financial crimes detective and a forensic accountant. I went to college with a woman named Carla Bishop who does forensic accounting now. She works with a detective in the next county over named Mendes. I trust them both. Will you call them? I'll call them tonight." She came around the counter and put her arms around me. I let her. I had not cried since the Tuesday I scrolled too far back. I did not cry now. Hannah held me a little longer than she usually did, and then she stepped back and looked at my face and did not say anything about it. I drove home in the dark. The street lights came on along the boulevard the way street lights do in November, one at a time, like a slow apology. I sat in my car in my own driveway for a few minutes before I went inside. The house lights were on. Eli was waiting. I had a team now. I had not had a team in a long time. She came over on Sunday with brochures. She fanned them out on Mom's kitchen table like a real estate agent staging a closing. Memory-friendly bedroom layouts, senior mobility solutions, a swatch card of paint colors, flat blues, warm grays, the kind of colors hospitals choose when they are trying not to feel like hospitals. Marlene was in the kitchen folding towels. Mom sat at the head of the table with her hands in her lap. Bate pulled out a chair and sat down beside her. "I've been thinking, Mom. I think it's time you came to live with me. The guest room is yours. We'll set it up exactly how you like." Marlene can keep coming. "Molly, sis, you've got Eli. You're already stretched so thin." Mom looked at me. For one long second, her eyes were clear, not foggy, not searching, clear. "I'm not ready to leave my own house yet." Bates' face moved through a small, fast set of expressions and settled on hurt. "Mom, I'm just trying to help. Don't you trust me?" The kitchen went quiet. Marlene had stopped folding. She held the towel half doubled in her hands and she did not look up. The clock in the hall ticked. The radiator clanked once, the way it always did at 4 in the afternoon. Mrs. Whitaker tells me Marlene said carefully into the towel that she's most herself in her own kitchen. It was the longest sentence I had heard Marlene speak in 14 months. Bates' shoulders shifted. She gathered the brochures back into a neat stack. "We can talk about it later. I just want everyone to be comfortable." She kissed Mom on the head. She told me she'd call. She left. I waited until I heard the Lexus back down the driveway. Then I turned to Marlene. "Marlene, is there something you want to tell me?" She finished folding the towel. She set it on the stack. She wiped her hands on her apron. "Some night when you can come by while I'm here, I'd like to show you the pill organizer." She did not look at me. She picked up the next towel. The Lexus was already turning the corner at the end of the block. "I want to stop here for just a moment." Standing at that window, watching my sister's car turn the corner, I had everything I needed to make a phone call I never thought I would have to make. If you are listening to this and you have someone in your family you have been worried about, a mother, a father, a grandparent, please take that worry seriously. Like this video if you believe protecting someone you love does not have to mean hurting them. Subscribe if you want to hear how I ended. There is more. Now, let me get back to that Sunday afternoon because the next morning I picked up the phone. Carla Bishop's office was on the second floor of a small brick building 2 counties over above a bakery. Her waiting room smelled faintly of yeast. She was 48. She wore a plain navy cardigan over a white shirt. Her desk was the cleanest desk I had ever seen. She watched the footage clips for 90 minutes and she did not make a sound during the watching. She wrote things down. She made a small gesture with her pen now, and then as if she were marking music. When the last clip ended, she folded her hands. The dollar value I can already trace conservatively is $187,000. That includes the forged checks and the redirected Social Security. And a third account I'll need to subpoena to confirm. There may be more. The drug switching. Drug tampering on a vulnerable adult is Pennsylvania State Title 18. Aggravated assault. Possibly attempted homicide if the prosecutor wants to be aggressive. Drug tampering plus financial exploitation triggers the Financial Crimes Unit. That's Detective Mendy's territory. I can get her on the phone right now. Yes, she picked up her desk phone. Detective Mendy's was 51. She had been with the Financial Crimes Unit 14 years. She came onto the speaker phone calmly like a woman picking up a child who had fallen but was not really hurt. She asked me 3 questions. What did I want to happen? What did I not want to happen? How many people in the family knew? I told her I wanted my mother safe. I wanted the money returned for my mother's care. I did not want my sister dead. I wanted her stopped. I told her no one knew except Hannah and Carla and now her. I told her my brother lived in Oregon. I told her my niece was in a private rehab facility. I told her my mother had clear moments and had recently used one of them to ask not to be moved. Mendy's was quiet for a while. Ms. Whittaker, we can do this without yelling. We can do it without anyone getting hurt at the door. Would you be willing to come in Friday morning? I said I would. I drove home on the highway. I put my turn signal on once for an exit that was not mine. And I did not understand why until I had driven another 2 miles. Thursday afternoon, in the middle of the alphabet song with 22 5-year-olds, my phone buzzed against the wall behind the cubbies. I left it. After dismissal, I checked, and there was a number I did not recognize and a voicemail. The voicemail was from a woman named Diana from Adult Protective Services. She wanted to talk to me about my mother. I called her back from the empty classroom. I sat in one of the small chairs with my knees too high and I listened. Ms. Whittaker, we received a report. The reporter alleges that you are isolating your mother. The reporter alleges that you are refusing transition to appropriate care. The reporter alleges psychological pressure against your mother and against one of your siblings. I closed my eyes. I knew who. Is there a name on the report? I'm not at liberty to share that. Ma'am, of course. We'd like to do a home visit tomorrow, 2 p.m. your mother's residence. Will that work? Yes, I drove home. I called Carla. Carla was very quiet on the other end of the line, the way she had been when she was watching footage. Then she said, she is preempting. She is creating an official paper trail in which you are the abuser. When we bring our evidence forward, it will look like retaliation. This is the move I told Mendy's she might make. What do I do? You do nothing different. You cooperate fully tomorrow. You don't mention the camera. Let Diana see what is there to see. Your mother, your work, Marlene's notes. Diana will write down what she sees. She will see a daughter who shows up. Mendy's and I will handle the timeline. I stayed up that night with Eli's small, hot body in the crook of my arm. He had crawled in around midnight, the way he sometimes did when he sensed something. I did not move. I counted his breaths. It was the first time I had cried since the Tuesday in November. The tears Madino sound. They went into Eli's hair, which smelled like the apple shampoo I had bought him last week. I had been holding everything together for 71 days. Outside, the rain had started again. The same rain almost as the night I had scrolled too far back. I did not move until morning. Friday morning, I got to my mother's house at 8:00. A PS was not coming until 2. Marlene was in the kitchen. The Friday pill organizer was open on the counter, the long plastic one with 7 compartments. She had a small Ziploc bag in front of her. "Come look." I came and stood beside her. Compartments labeled Monday through Friday all had the same small white and orange capsule, the Dunipsil. The compartments for Saturday and Sunday had something different. Smaller white scored across the middle. I knew them now. Diphenhydramine. Bait fills it every Sunday afternoon. I noticed 6 weeks ago. I was ashamed I didn't tell anyone. I thought it was none of my business. I told myself you'd ask if you wanted to know. You're the first one who asked. I put my hand on Marlene's shoulder. She let me. Mom came down the hall in her bathrobe. She walked the way she walked now, a half second behind her own feet. She came to the counter. She looked at the pill organizer. Bait fills it Sundays. I told her on Mondays I felt different. I told her something was off. She said, "No, Mom, you're imagining it." She said it was the disease. She lifted her eyes to mine. "I wasn't imagining it, Molly." I sat down at the kitchen table. I patted the chair next to mine. She sat. She put her hand over mine. Her hand was dry and cold and stronger than I expected. Stronger than the hand of a woman who had stopped knitting in June. "I know, Mom. I know you weren't." We sat there until the kettle whistled. Marlene poured the tea. Marlene set the cup in front of Mom with the handle turned the way Mom liked it. Marlene poured a second cup for me without asking. Marlene poured a third cup for herself. The 3 of us drank tea in my mother's kitchen on a Friday morning while the morning light came through the window over the sink and lit up the basil pot Mom had not been able to take care of since June. At 1:45, the doorbell rang. I stood up. I straightened my sweater. I went to the door. I had been ready for this for 72 days. Diana from APS was small and tired and kind. She had been doing this for 26 years. She said she walked the house slowly and she took notes on a clipboard with a laminated cover. She asked to see Mom's medication. I let her. The Friday compartment of the pill organizer had the right pill in it. I had not touched the Saturday or Sunday compartments. I let her see those, too. I did not say anything about them. Diana paused for a long second over the Saturday compartment. She did not write anything down about it. She moved on. She interviewed Mom in the living room. Mom was in a clear window. Mom said, "My daughter Molly is good to me. My daughter Bate, I'm not so sure anymore." Deanna wrote that down word for word. She interviewed Marlene in the kitchen. Marlene confirmed care quality. Marlene mentioned calmly that she had concerns about the pill organizer, that she was glad an outside agency was now positioned to evaluate. She did not look at me when she said it. Diana thanked us. Diana left. That night at 6, Mendes called. Diana phoned me off the record. "She has no concerns about you. She has concerns about the reporter. She also has concerns about that pill organizer. She is putting that in writing tonight." "Good. Carla traced an author 14,000. There's a third account. Most of the proceeds went to a poker app called Stars Mobile. We have the processor records. 6 years of losses, roughly 74,000. We also traced 46,000 over the last 8 months. To a place called Cedar Bluff Recovery Center. Your niece, the arrest warrant is ready. I want to talk about how we serve it. Tell me we could pick her up at her house at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Quiet, easy, but I don't recommend it. 2 reasons. 1, she might harm herself. 2, your mother deserves to see what was done. So does the rest of your family. So does whoever has been listening to her version. I want her arrested somewhere that ends the story. A family meeting at my mother's house. Yes, I'll set it up Saturday." "Good." I hung up. Eli was in the next room drawing a dragon. Monday morning, I drove to Roy Halstead's law office. He had been my mother's family attorney for 15 years. He had updated her power of attorney the previous spring. I had been suspicious of Roy for weeks. I almost did not go alone. I almost asked Mendes to come with me. I went anyway. Roy's office was warm and brown and smelled like leather chairs and an old window fan. He was 58, gray, soft-spoken, the kind of lawyer who served you tea before he served you news. I told him everything in order. I showed him the spreadsheet. I showed him the bank statements. I showed him the pill clip. He took off his glasses halfway through. He did not put them back on. By the end, his face had gone a careful, quiet white. He stood up. He went to a filing cabinet, wooden, nothing like my mother's, and pulled a thin folder. Last May, Bethany came to my office with your mother. Bethany asked me to draft an immediate trust amendment. She wanted 60% of the assets transferred directly to her. Your mother sat very quietly through the meeting. Your mother answered yes to yes or no questions. She answered no to no or yes questions. She did not seem ready to make a decision. I told Bethany the same thing I would tell anyone. Bring her back next month with full Medi-Cal clearance. We'll do it properly. She didn't come back. She did not. I assumed she had reconsidered. She did not return my follow-up call. He opened the folder. April 23rd, 11:47 at night. Your sister called my home line. She asked me to rush the amendment. I told her no. I told her never to call me at home again. I logged the call. I record all professional calls from my home line. I have the audio. I closed my eyes. April 23rd. The night Bate had stood in my mother's kitchen with the phone pressed to hear and her face turned away. Roy reached across the desk and rested his hand briefly over mine. Ms. Whittaker, I will stand with you on Saturday. I will represent your mother pro bono. Tell me what you need. I told him. I left his office. The last yellow leaves on the sycamore by his front walk fell while I was unlocking my car. Wednesday evening, I called my sister. Bate, I've thought about it. You may be right about Mom about the move, but I want everyone in the same room first. Saturday, 11:00 a.m. Daniel will fly in. Roy will be there to walk us through some trust paperwork. Eli will be at Hannah's. I want us all to talk. There was a pause on her end. I heard her swallow. Sis, I'm so glad you came around. Saturday's perfect. I could hear it in her voice. The relief. The plan reassembling itself in her head. Bring nothing, just yourself. Mom wants it casual. Of course, I hung up. I called Mendy's. I called Carla. I called Roy. I called Daniel in Oregon and told him only that something serious about Bate had come to light and that I needed him in the room. He said he would be on the first flight Saturday morning. He did not ask more. I called Marlene. She would be there making coffee the way she made coffee on every other Saturday morning. Mendy's would arrive at 10:00 with 2 officers, and they would wait in Mom's study. Carla would be in her car at the end of the driveway with a phone and a folder. Roy would arrive at 10:30 with the call log, the trust folder, and a small flash drive of the audio. I would play the footage on the living room television. I had cut it down to 7 minutes. The practice signatures, the pills. The filing cabinet, just enough, not too much. That night, Eli came into my room in his dinosaur pajamas. He climbed up on the foot of the bed and sat there looking at me. Mom, something's happening tomorrow. Yes. Is it a bad thing? I thought about that for a long time. It's a hard thing. After tomorrow, Mom is going to have a little more time to play with you. That's the part I want you to remember. He nodded. He came up and kissed me on the cheek. He went back to bed. I lay in the dark with my eyes open until 5:00 a.m. Then I got up and made the coffee. She came at 11 on the dot carrying a vase of white lees. The lees were too much. They were a funeral flower. They were out of season. She set them in the center of the kitchen island and stood back to admire them. And then she came into the living room rubbing her hands the way she rubbed her hands before an open house. She stopped it halfway in. Mom was in Dad's old chair by the window. Daniel was on the couch beside her, holding her hand. Marlene was in the armchair in the corner, very still. Roy sat in the wing back by the fireplace with a folder closed on his knees. Bates' smile came up automatically and froze. What's all this? I thought we were having tea. I stood. I walked to the television. I picked up the remote. Sit down, Bate. She did not sit. She stayed where she was, half a step from the doorway. Sis, what's going on? I pressed play. The screen filled with a spreadsheet. 47 check entries, 11 social security redirections. Total dollar value $187,000. Then it cut to a still photograph of 14 practice signatures. Then to a frozen frame of Bate at the medication cabinet, Her hand caught mid-pour 3 white pills falling. Bates' face went through 3 things very fast. Confusion, calculation, effort. Sis, what is this? Roy opened his folder. Bethany, you placed a phone call to my home line on April 23rd, 11:47 at night. I have a recording. Should I play it for the room or do you remember the conversation? Bates' mouth opened. Nothing came out. Mom turned her head slowly. She had been watching the television. She had been watching it the way a person watches a long story unfold to its end. Now she looked at Bethany. Mom's voice was low and clear. What did you do to me? Bate did not answer. Her face did something I had not seen it do in 20 years. It cracked, not the crack off being caught. The crack of a child whose mother had just said her name in a way she had never said it before. She reached out a hand toward Mom. Mom did not take it. Mom, I let the tape keep playing. The next clip was the pills. The next clip was the cabinet at 2 in the morning. No one spoke. Marlene's hands were folded in her lap. Daniel's jaw was set. Roy was watching the screen, not Bate. Bate had nowhere to look. The footage played all the way through. Daniel did not look away, Marlene did not look away, Roy did not look away, Mom did not look away. When the screen went dark, the room was very quiet. The clock in the hall counted 12 seconds. I counted them. Bate was crying now, not the crying she had done at her husband's funeral, not a performance. Real crying, ugly, wet, surprised. Her hands were pressed flat against her own chest. I didn't Sophie's rehab. Mark died. I didn't think. She did not finish a single sentence. Her sentences kept breaking off the way bones break. The study door opened. Detective Mendes stepped out. She was in plain clothes, gray slacks, and a blazer with her badge clipped to her belt. Behind her were 2 officers in uniform, and they stayed in the doorway and did not advance. Bethany Marie Whittaker. Mendes's voice was not loud. It was firm and even. She read Bate her rights. She named the charges: forgery, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, tampering with a controlled substance, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. The list took a long time. Bate listened with her hands still pressed against her chest. Stand up, please, ma'am. Bate stood. The officer behind her brought out the cuffs. He cuffed her hands gently in front of her body, not behind. Mendes had asked for that. Mendes had said, "We will not humiliate her. We will only stop her." Bate turned her head toward me. "Sis, you did this to me." I looked at her for a long moment. I had thought about what I would say. I had thought about it for 10 days. "Bate, you did this to Mom." The officers walked her out the front door. The neighbor across the street was on her front porch with a coffee cup in her hand. She did not pretend to look away. The patrol car lights pulsed red and blue against the front of my mother's house. The front door closed. The Lexus sat untouched in the driveway. No one to drive it home. In the living room, Mom let out a breath she had been holding for 14 months. I knew. We turned to look at her. She did not look at any of us. She looked at the empty doorway her older daughter had walked through. I knew. The patrol car pulled away. The neighbor across the street went back into her house. The street was the kind of quiet a street is on a Saturday morning when nothing else is happening for half a mile in either direction. Daniel was the one who moved first. He slid down off the couch and knelt in front of Mom and put his head against her knees the way he had done when he was 9 and the dog had died. Mom rested her hand on his hair. Marlene stood up. She went to the kitchen. Shedded the thing nurses know how to do, which is the thing of doing the next small task without being asked. She put the kettle on. She got down 4 cups. She added the honey to the bottom of Mom's cup, the way Mom liked it. Roy laid his folder on the coffee table. "I'll start a set recovery on Monday. Pro bono. I'll have a guardianship petition for you by Wednesday. Thank you." He nodded. He patted my arm on his way out. The front door closed behind him with a small, polite click. Daniel lifted his head from Mom's knees and turned toward me. "How long?" His voice was rough. "How long? What? How long have you been doing this alone?" 73 days. He stood up. He came across the room and put his arms around me. I let him. I had not let him hug me since our father's funeral. He smelled like airline coffee and the wool of the coat he had not bothered to take off. He held me for a long time. Then he stepped back, wiped his face with the back of his wrist, and went to help Marlene with the tea. I sat down beside me, Mother. She turned her hand over in her lap, palm up, and I put mine into hers, her grip closed. Things break sometimes, Mom. She looked at me. Her eyes were tired and clear at the same time. Yes, they do. We did not say anything else for a while. The kettle whistled in the next room. Daniel laughed at something Marlene said low and surprised. Mom squeezed my hand once. I don't remember everything that happened, but I know you're a good one. I sat with that. Saturday night, Eli came home. He was wearing a paper crown Hannah's daughter had made him. Mom, pancakes tomorrow. Yes, all the pancakes. Daniel stayed 4 days. We talked, the two of us, on the back porch at the kitchen table, walking along the cornfield road behind Mom's house. We talked about things we had not talked about in 8 years. We did not solve any of it. We did not need to. We just talked. Bate posted bail Sunday. Mark's family put up the $50,000. She did not call me. She called Daniel. He let it go to voicemail. He did not delete the voicemail. He never listened to it either. Sophie called me on Wednesday from the rehab pay phone. She was 19. Her voice was small. She said she had been told. She said she had not known about any of it. She said, Aunt Molly, I thought rehab was insurance. I swear to God, I thought it was insurance. And she dissolved into the kind of crying I knew how to wait through. I had waited through it with 22 5-year-olds in a row. Sophie, sweetheart, I believe you. I love Grandma. I know you do. So dosh. We talked for 40 minutes. I found a memory care facility 40 minutes from my house on a back road in a converted farmhouse with 8 rooms and a garden. Marlene sat in on the tour with me. The facility hired Marlene to be Mom's primary aide. They did it on the first phone call. The cost was $7,200 a month. The recovered funds plus Mom's restored Social Security would cover 4 years and a few months. Roy was confident he could push that out further with a lien. We moved Mom in 3 weeks later. She liked a south-facing window. She liked the smell of bread from the kitchen. On her second day, she pinched off a sprig of basil from the kitchen herb pot and put it on her window sill in a juice glass with 2 in of water in the bottom, and the basil rooted the way basil will if you give it a little time. By April, she had pleaded guilty. She took the plea bargain her public defender negotiated. 5 years state, 7 probation, restitution of $187,000, which Roy had already secured against her seized accounts. And the equity in the house she could no longer afford. No contact with Mom for 5 years. The judge entered the order on a Tuesday morning. Daniel flew in. I did not go. I took my class to the planetarium. Mom kept declining slowly, the way the disease moves when no one is interfering with it. Some days she did not know me. Some days she called me by Bate's name, which the first time hurt more than I expected, and after that did not hurt at all. She always knew Eli. He visited her every Saturday. He read to her from his class library books. She liked the dinosaur ones best. I went a part-time at school. I picked up the school's afternoon library shift to cover the difference. I had 4 afternoons a week to spend with my mother, and I spent them. Sophie got out of rehab in February. By April, she was 9 months sober. She was working as a waitress at a diner 2 towns over, and she had started classes at the community college. She called me every Sunday at 4. We talked about nothing for an hour. Daniel flew in every other month. Hannah came to dinner most Friday nights. Carla sent a Christmas card. Roy sent flowers to Mom on her birthday. Yellow tulips, the kind she had grown along the side of the porch the year I was born. Marlene was the one who had the hardest job and did it the best. She talked to Mom about Mom's books. She kept Mom's hair the way Mom liked it. One afternoon, while we were folding laundry together at the facility, Marlene said, "Your mama still likes her tea hot." It was the second time she had ever said that sentenced home. I had not gotten over any of it. I did not believe in getting over things. I had kept going. I had taken my son to school, and I had taken my mother her tea, and I had taken myself out to my own front porch on slow evenings and watched the light go down. A Tuesday in May, almost a year after the Tuesday I had first scrolled too far. Eli was asleep. The house was quiet. The rain had started up again, the same kind of fall rain, except it was spring now, and the smell came in a different way through kitchen window. I opened the laptop. I opened the camera app. The camera was still mounted above my mother's refrigerator. The kitchen had been dark and empty for 6 months. I had not taken the camera down. I had not turned it off either. I scrolled not to the Tuesday, past it further back than I had ever gone. Christmas, the year before the diagnosis. My mother baking the apple pie, forgetting the sugar. The first time Bate coming in with a bottle of something and a wrapped present. Beth standing behind Mom at the counter, putting her chin on Mom's shoulder for a long second. Mom laughing without turning around. Bate's hand on Mom's back, light and certain, a daughter's hand. Bate had loved her. I sat with that for a long time. I sat with the fact that the woman I had watched for 14 months and the woman who had stood in that kitchen with her chin on my mother's shoulder were the same person. I did not know what to do with the fact. I do not know now. I did not delete the footage. I copied the whole drive, every clip, every Sunday, every Christmas onto an external drive. I put the drive in a small fireproof box on the top shelf of my closet, behind the box of Eli's baby clothes I had not been able to give away. I told myself Sophie might want it someday. I told myself I might not be the one to decide. I closed the laptop. I sat in the kitchen in the dark for a long time listening to the rain. I did not forgive my sister. I did not pretend I had. I also did not delete the proof that there had been a long time when she had been someone I had loved without thinking about it. That much at least I let stand. It was late. The rain had not stopped. I opened the laptop one more time. The way you open a door you have been opening so long you forget how the latch works. I did not scroll back. I clicked over to the live feed. The kitchen was empty. The clock on the wall over the back door had stopped. No one had wound it in months. A small ant was making its slow way across the counter near the sugar bowl. The light from the street lamp came in through the back window and laid a thin blue rectangle across the floor where my mother used to stand making tea at 6:00 in the morning. I watched for a few minutes. I did not tell myself why. A kitchen does not sleep. A kitchen waits. I learned that from a small white camera I mounted above my mother's refrigerator one September afternoon when the only thing I wanted was to know she was eating. I think about all the nights that kitchen watched. Sometimes, rarely, it saw the right person. I closed the laptop. I went upstairs. Eli was asleep in his dinosaur sheets. His mouth was open a little. His arm was thrown out across the bed, the way his Uncle Daniel slept, the way my father had slept. I sat down on the edge of his bed in the dark. Outside, the rain kept going. I did not cry. I did not smile. I was just there, and that was the most I had been in a long time. That is where I am leaving the story. If this story touched you, maybe because there is a mother, a sister, someone you have watched without finding the words to ask, I would like to hear from you. Tell me in the comments what is the question you wish you had asked sooner. And if you want more stories like this one, not about revenge, but about quietly choosing the right thing, please subscribe so you'll know when I post next. There is a story in the description below about a mother who wrote letters her children did not read until it was too late. I think you will want to hear it. Thank you for staying with me.